evening, everyone. Welcome to Tabernacle Township Committee meeting, workshop. Please stand for the flag salute. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This meeting is called pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Law. This meeting of March 12, 2018 was included in the list of notices as essential record, Burlington County Times and Courier Post, posted on the bulletin board in Town Hall, and has remained continuously posted as required notices of the statute. In addition, a copy of this notice is and has been available to the public and is on file in the office of the municipal clerk. We have roll call. Ms. Brown. Mr. Franson.
Here.
Mr. Lee.
Here.
Mr. Yates.
Here.
Mayor Barton.
Present. Thank you, Madam Clerk. At this time, we're going to have public comment on agenda items. If you would like to speak about agenda items only, there will be a public portion later. Please come forward, stand as close to us as possible, and speak as loud as possible so that Mrs. Brooks can hear you in the back, and so that Madam Clerk can record you. Mr. Brooks.
Thank you, Mayor Barton. Good evening, committee and staff. I have comments on item 5, the budget preparation. I know you'll be spending a lot of time and doing a lot of work on the budget between today and its adoption. There are 2 or 3 items I would ask that you address in the preparation discussions, and they are these. The budget announcement speaks of a $25,000 increase for private snow removal. I know that was a pilot program that started last year. In fact, there's some bills to be paid for that on the bill list. I'd be interested in hearing an evaluation of the pilot program before it gets funded again. I would think that would include what did it cost, how many miles were covered, was the work well done, was the contractor responsive, were there any other issues, positive or negative, that would affect the decision of whether to continue the pilot program. Second, regarding the $1 million capital road program, I'd like to know what's in it. I'd like to know how the recent grant award for Carranza Road would affect that capital program or not. And of course, I wonder if how the balance of Carranza Road might be funded. I know that Deputy Mayor Lee, if I recall, I'd also speak with Township to further that discussion, and perhaps in his report, if there's progress on that front, that would be reported. Lastly, I'd be interested in knowing what the current surplus is and what the proposed surplus might be if the budget were to be adopted as planned with the current, as it's currently configured, understanding, of course, that changes can occur between now and its adoption. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brooks. We'll try to hit all your questions.
I don't know, identify myself. Stuart Brooks, Forest Meadow Road.
Thank you.
Just in case it happens.
Okay. Anyone else from the public? This is Brooks.
Thank you. Fran Brooks, Moore's Meadow Road. I just wanted to ask a question about this shared service agreement with Southampton Township for road grading, because the entire agreement wasn't attached to the agenda, so which we appreciate just having the agenda materials that are attached. I wanted to know what the terms of the agreement are and what role we're playing. Are we doing all of the grading, or will Southampton be borrowing our equipment to do grading that's particular to Southampton? How much the shared agreement is for, and how the money is being distributed. And I think that covers it. Okay, because none of that information is in this.
Doug, we haven't seen the agreement yet, meaning the committee. Have you finalized an agreement with Southampton?
You should have a copy.
It's in our packet.
Is it?
Should have.
I never got it in my packet.
Wasn't in mine.
Well, it wasn't on the website, so that's why I'm asking about it. Thank you.
Yeah, it's on the shared service agreement on the back page.
Was it? I didn't have it in
On
mine.
the back page of what?
You have the resolution on the front,
Okay, well,
and on the back, what pages,
do you have the
through
resolution?
4. Based on where I'm sitting here, I'm sitting in
The
front.
back
You
page
have
of what?
Back page of the resolution,
Right,
should say shared service agreement for grading of township roads.
okay, well, right. I've actually got Rick's, but I've got page 1, which is the resolution itself,
Okay.
which makes a reference to in the third whereas, there's a reference to negotiate the terms and the conditions of an agreement for the provision of such services. I'm looking for the agreement itself.
Okay, so Doug, you're saying page 2, 3, and 4, and 5? And
Yeah.
4, okay.
Are the agreement.
Yep, I did read those, I didn't realize that was part of that.
That's the agreement, I guess.
Yeah, so Mrs. Brooks, when we address that, we will go over these terms and conditions of that agreement.
Super. Thank you, I appreciate it.
Thanks, Doug. Anyone else from the public? Colonel Love?
I'm sitting here trying to figure out who I am when I stand here. I guess I'm William Lowe, the Emergency Management Coordinator. I have a question about discussion or revised ordinance 2007. What is that discussion? Is it looking at adding something to that resolution? Is it looking at, does that have
2000-7?
says discussions,
Yes.
revision of ordinance,
Yeah, we have,
revisit that?
I'm sorry, I didn't interrupt you.
No, I just wondered what it was, because I'd like to get something added to that.
Okay, there's 2 procedures that you see that we take on in this committee every month. One is parade permits, and the other is for raffle license. And we're going to discuss possibly a better way to handle this.
Okay, because the reason I ask is regulating public functions, I'd like to see something put in that resolution that would require anybody that's going to do some kind of public function to fill out a form that OEM has, that's submitted to OEM.
Okay.
That way I don't have to chase them around, the OEM doesn't have to chase them around to determine whether or not the Homeland Security has got to be advised, whether or not we need to put together some sort of incident action plan or that kind of thing. I had a long discussion with TAA about this thing, and whether or not we're advised, Seneca, whoever advises us that there's going to be some kind of large public thing. And we're looking for events where there's a large public gathering with a lot of notification
Okay.
that's unusual in the township. I mean, I'd be glad to put together some kind of form, put that if that's what is appropriate for that,
Okay.
as opposed to a separate
Well,
resolution.
hopefully, we're going to have an active spirited conversation about that tonight.
Okay.
And we'll ask you to, since you're an employee of the township, to sit up front when we have that conversation and give us your input.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else from the public? Okay, we're going to close the public portion. Approval to pay the bills. Before we do pay the bills, there is a large bond payment that's on the bill. It's $260,000 with a bond interest of $74,153 for a total of $334,153. Terry, could you tell the public what that bond payment is for, so everyone understands clearly that payment?
That bond payment was actually, it's our annual bond payment based on the schedule, but originally it was the emergency squad building, I think the road program that we rolled over into that back in 2013. This is just the annual payment from off the amortization schedule.
Okay. And that's the only 2 items that are in that one.
There may have been multiple road programs on that.
Okay. Thanks, Frank.
You will.
Any questions on the bills from the committee? If not, can I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
A roll call?
Thank you. Mr. Franson?
Yes.
Mr. Lee?
Yes.
Mr. Yates?
Yes.
Mayor Barton?
Yes. Resolution 2018-43 approving a license for Church of the Holy Eucharist. We have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay. Joanne, could, since most of the members of the board are members of the church, could you please go over the rules for voting on this?
Yes, we can invoke the doctrine of necessity so that the members can vote, and it can be approved that way.
Okay, good. Any discussion on this? If not, can we have a roll call, Madam Clerk?
Thank you. Mr. Franson?
Yes.
Mr. Lee?
Yes.
Mr. Yates?
Yes.
Mayor Barton?
Yes. Resolution 2018-44 authorizing Tabernacle Township to enter into a shared service agreement with Southampton Township for road grading services. Have a motion?
Make the motion.
Second?
I'll second.
Okay, and before we discuss this, I'm going to ask our administrator, Mr. Kramer, could you go over the terms and conditions of the shared service with Southampton Township, and in your making that presentation, can you answer Mrs. Brooks' questions? She had a question about the grader, and then we know we just bought a new second-hand, I'll call it a second-hand grader, right, which is going to be used for that.
Before we do that, Mayor,
Yes.
I only received this page in my packet, which looks like it's the first page.
Okay,
I didn't receive any agreement, and actually when I called and asked the administrator today when we would be getting the agreement, I think you indicated that Peter had the agreement, we'd have it for the meeting tonight, but I never had a chance to read the agreement. I'm not going to vote on it because I haven't had a chance to read it, but I just wanted to clarify what I got in my packet and why I'm not going to be voting on this resolution.
okay. Would you like a copy while the administrator
That'd
goes
be
through it?
great. That'd
That
be
way-
great. All right, can I share yours?
Absolutely.
All right.
That's what it's all about.
Cool.
Go ahead, Mr. Kramer.
We are going into an agreement, you approve it tonight, with Southampton Township to provide them grading service where we provide the grader and the operator. And it would be for grading, they have 4 roads they group together: Friendship Road, West Patty Boger, Brace Road, and Evans Road collectively. And we will be paid $5,000 to grade those roads. They also do Friendship Road and West Patty Boger an additional time as compared to the rest, and that would be for $2,500. Southampton Township will provide any and all stone and gravel needed to service the road, including to deliver it to the site for our grader to level it. And other than that, we will be grading the road.
Okay. So it's for the 4 roads, and it's roughly $12.50 each time we do one of those 4 roads.
Okay.
Is that pretty, I mean, we're going to do 4, and then if they need additional times,
Yes.
the T&M time material is
Yeah.
another $12.50.
Yeah.
So if they call you 6 weeks after you've already graded, it needs to be regraded.
Their present schedule right now is they grade those 4 roads once a year, and they grade the other ones twice a year.
Okay.
And that's what it's based on, but additional times would be at the same rate.
Okay. And when you negotiated this, Doug, and you and I did talk about this, but talk to the public about the shared service and the fact that this isn't costing the taxpayers of Tabernacle any more resources, right?
No, our grader operator is a part-time employee who works for us right now. It would be, our expense, and that would be only his hours and time at part-time rate, which is no benefits or anything like that.
Okay.
And there would be additional fuel to get there and back. But 2 of the roads, the ones they do multiple times a year, are abut Tabernacle Township. And we in the past have graded them a number of years ago when they got into an emergency situation.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Kramer. Anyone from the committee have any questions about the shared service?
There's a dispute between the two parties. Why is it go to arbitration for the second phase instead of B? Is that a standard, Joanne, is that standard language you know?
Yes, it keeps costs down. Rather than filing suit in court, arbitration always keeps costs down.
Any other questions? Anything there?
Nope.
Gonna change your mind about it? You feel a little more comfortable? Nope. You read it? No? Okay. Roll call?
Mr. Franson?
Yes.
Mr. Lee?
Abstain.
Mr. Yates?
Yes.
Mayor Barton?
Yes. Before we go into the next item, this committee does a very good job of always looking for shared services. And, you know, our cost of the taxes that the residents pay is the lowest cost. We do our best to try to get that cost down as low as possible. And the best way to do that is to do shared service with the surrounding communities when it makes sense and when it benefits them and it benefits us. It has to be a win-win for the both. One can't benefit at the expense of the other. And so this is another example of that. So I thank Mr. Kramer for putting this together with Mr. Lang and of course Joanne being here tonight. Okay. Resolution 2018-45, approving emergency temporary appropriations. Have a motion?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Hey, Terry, you want to talk about, help the public understand why we're doing an emergency temporary appropriation?
Yeah, the normal temporary appropriations are for the first 3 months of the year. So while we're going over the budget documents and everything else, I figured we would add another couple of months, which would give us enough time to pay bills if for some reason the budget process went a little longer, we have enough money to pay the bills.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the committee? Discussion, okay, roll call?
Mr. Franson?
Yes.
Mr. Lee?
Yes.
Mr. Yates?
Yes.
Mayor Barton?
Yes. We have a parade permit, approving a parade permit for Jeep Jamboree USA Trail Ride, March 22nd to March 24th, 2018. And we have an application. We have a map.
This is something I do every year, am I correct?
Yes.
Yes, this is something we do every year. We have a check for the insurance. Have a motion?
So moved.
A second?
I'll second, but I have a question.
Sure.
Does OEM have a copy of the map? Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Okay. Any other questions or discussion? Okay, roll call.
Mr. Franson?
Yes.
Mr. Lee?
Yes.
Mr. Yates?
Yes.
Mayor Barton?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Doug, I skipped over your budget presentation. I apologize for that.
That's okay.
But we got some of the new business out of the way. We'll go into your budget presentation, and then we'll pick up on the agenda after that.
Okay. Terry put together the budget message this year. I'll ask him to go over that in the beginning, and then we'll go into the appropriations, and then Terry will talk again about the revenues. Terry?
Okay. So if you're looking at the budget message that you guys had in your packets, this particular budget, I'll just highlight some of these things.
Okay.
This particular budget, we're looking at a 1 cent increase over last year. That 1 cent increase is roughly 1.78% of higher budget than last year, which is about a $77,000 increase. When we look at the revenues are going to be pretty much exactly the same as they've been for the last 7 years. They're flat. They're not getting any more money from the state this year. So there's not much help there. Looking at employee salaries and benefits and pension payments, we have built into this budget a 2% salary increase across the board, except for the Township Committee, which has elected not to have any increases for the last few years. Our Township's capital program, as Mr. Brooks had mentioned a little earlier, is $1,365,000, which is $1 million for the roads. At this point, it's just a planning tool, so we don't really have a list per se until we get to the actual ordinance stage. But you know, we're allotting in our capital budget $1 million for the road. And in the back, it's just an idea of a $264,000 house, what those items actually would cost that person, what breakdown of their $1,140 tax payment in this budget. So for different amounts, you can kind of plug in the numbers and get an idea of what a house would be. I know Doug had mentioned about the revenues. I might as well just go over that a little bit now since we're talking about it. If you guys could look at the revenue sheet, everything's basically the same except for the way these were copied. I actually had the 2017 surplus amounts of what we're using at the bottom of the page. So I don't know if that shows up in your sheets or not. But to answer Mr. Brooks' question, our 2017 surplus is $945,879, of which we're using $672,101 of surplus to balance this budget. $672,101 to balance the budget, which is the exact same amount we used last year. And last year's surplus was $810,000. So just to give you an idea, this $945,000 is actual surplus. It's not that we deferred any school taxes to increase the surplus for the budget. This year's we did pretty well this year, so our surplus is actually up. That's all I have.
Do you have any thoughts on why our surplus is up?
One of the reasons is because we've taken in funds for those abandoned properties. It's been about $120,000 I think we took in, which we don't anticipate every year coming in as miscellaneous revenue. Whatever we get goes directly to surplus. That's one of the large portions of us increasing surplus this year.
Okay, and Terry, I understand that the New Jersey DCA has changed the rules when it comes to permits for roofs and siding. And it's no longer a requirement to take out a permit in the state of New Jersey if you want to put a new roof or siding on your home. So our code official will not be involved with any new residential roofs or sidings. Right, so whatever that number is, we lose that revenue stream.
Actually, under Uniform Construction Code, I think we've been realizing actually budgeting $60,000. We got $66,000, roughly $66,000 to $70,000 we get in. So unless it's going to be less than that, then we could lower that estimate.
But to piggyback on Joe's point, it's for more than just roofs and siding though, but I think it might be smart to look at what we took in 2017, 2016 in terms of permit fees for the projects. The DCA has changed the rules on to give us a more accurate number for the budget. It's a little bit of work for Tom, but I think it would be good to at least have an idea what we're talking about.
Yeah, that and Doug and our construction code official did meet, and we did look at some of our fees. Some of our fees are undervalued. You know, when it comes to construction fees, we're not supposed to finance our budget with it, but it should be a break even. So we're going to have to revisit some of those fees and see if we can make sure that they actually cover the cost of what the service that our construction department provides. And that may make up some of that difference that we lose.
Yes, Tom will be looking at that and have some recommendations.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Go through appropriations. We have a few highlighted in the budget presentation as far as some areas where it went up. As far as the snow plowing that we put in.
What number are you going to be on here so we can follow it?
Let me jump around a little bit just because that question was asked. And I don't want to forget it.
253-100, is that where we are? 300-100?
300-200
Okay.
in O&E.
Okay.
We've added fees and compensation. We went up to $30,000. And in 2018 to date, we have spent $27,002.50 with our contractor.
So to be fair about, you know, the cost that we have a contractor doing snow plowing, you know, to the general public could look like an added cost. But isn't there some avoidance that we don't have the equipment?
In this particular year,
We're eventually reducing our fleet,
yes.
right? So you got this cost of this truck that, what's the value of a truck and a plow today?
Truck and a plow is worth somewhere between, in that area, somewhere between $130,000 and $180,000, depending on what size truck we put in that area.
And the life of that truck is?
About 15 years.
15 years, so you know, so you have to kind of divide that out and say, okay, if there's a cost avoidance of buying a vehicle for the township and maintaining the vehicle, but the cost of the service goes up, you know, that's what we're looking at, that's what we're trying to accomplish here, right? The deputy mayor last year, he looked at, we had a committee that looked at all the public works equipment, and we came up with a plan, and we sold some equipment. We came up with a plan to downsize where we're going to be with that equipment. And so, I'm bringing this up, Mr. Brooks, because you questioned, you know, there is an added increase there, but there is a savings in the future for the township.
Where do we stand on liquidation of the truck going?
We will be scheduling that probably in April or May at the latest for that equipment. We're waiting for delivery of the 2 trucks that we ordered. One should be here this week, later this week, if International doesn't have any, any more snow-related issues to getting it in the shop and getting it finalized. Matt, I have a phone call into the other one. They have predicted that somewhere around the last week of March. We're getting an update on that. So that's where we should be, and then once they're here, we'll be able to liquidate through gov deals all the equipment.
Okay, so Doug, at the end of our winter season, you know, we'll be able to revisit this and analyze.
Yes.
Is this the way to continue? Do we continue with a contractor? Is it trial? And is it beneficial to the taxpayers of Tabernacle? Or do we not renew that contract and continue the way we've done it in the past?
As far as the quality of the plowing and salting, they've been a very good company to work with. We've kept them on the same hours that we are in, and We have two conscientious drivers who do a very good job for us. So as far as the quality of the work, I'm pleased with the quality of the work that we're getting. And what we will do is a final analysis at the end of the season and compare what's it cost us to do it in-house versus what it costs to do it.
Okay.
So, those questions are this. If we start at the beginning,
Okay, so we're going to go to...
back to administration, 100, 100.
Okay.
Let's see, last year I had put some additional money in there for administrative staff. I took that back out this year. We didn't use the part-time help that we were going to use, so I've reduced that amount so just in case. And I've reduced the salaries back to where we expect the salaries to be.
And this shows the 2% increase? Is that what we're
Yes.
doing? Okay. Across the board, right?
Across
All
the
salaries, okay.
Yes. Plus the new salary of the public safety director, which wasn't in there last year, but that's later on. Administratively, we kept the budget the same for O&E for administration. We have a couple projects this year with some computers, updating some of those, and again, we'll be looking at security initiatives for both our computers and also the building. You'll see mayor and committee, that's based on committee members and the salaries that they have. Money stayed the same for mayor and committee. Municipal clerks, salary and wages reflect the 2%. The O&E stayed exactly the same as last year. Municipal improvement search officer reflects the 2%. Registrar salary and wages reflect the 2%. Finance salary and wages reflect the 2%. Plus there is some funds in there that are available should we pick a CFO that has purchasing capabilities. That will have some increase in salary there. If not, we'll look at other ways to accomplish that. Finance O&E remain the same. Annual audit remained the same. Salary and wages on collection of taxes went up the 2%. O&E actually went down slightly. We reduced the postage slightly because that will be charged to another department. We divide the postage up between all the departments. Bond registration fees, O&E stayed the same. Tax search officer reflects the 2%. Assessment of taxes, salary and wages reflect the 2%. And the assessment of taxes, O&E, reflect the 2% in the fees and compensation because we're in a shared service agreement with Shimon Township, who provides us Jerry Renwick. And we had some dues and publications fees that went up slightly. Legal went down slightly. We reduced that by $5,000 to $90,000 based on what we spent last year. Engineering went up slightly based on the projects that we anticipate this year, both rock and road projects and also some the building projects that we have that are out there. Our DEP consultants stayed the same. Planning board salary and wages went up to 2%. L&E remained the same. Construction went down slightly with some of the changes we've made. Slightly because we anticipate some initial startup expenses for fire marshal. Liability insurance remained the same. Workman's comp remained the same. Group insurance went up slightly based on anticipated increases from the state. Stayed the same. Emergency management salary and wages went up slightly. That may be offset partially by a grant that Colonel Lowe has been working on for the better part of 2 years. That we may be able to offset a portion of that with the grant coming up. The O&E went up slightly. We anticipated some equipment and supplies that we may have to purchase in this coming year. And so that we have a public safety department year that we did not have previous years. So the first 253,100 is the salary and wages based on the $10,000 that we anticipate public safety director costing us. And then you'll have public safety with the fire, O&E, that is in there. And we'll have to look. We are about, have to look at the budgeted fire department that's on the following page. Last year's budget was $106,500. This year's budget is $116,500. There was the 10,000 becomes the additional where we are in the increase in equipment, and we have kept medical the same at 5,000. So that increase is basically what comes in from there. Is the increase in the equipment allotment for this year. 5,000 for additional for truck repairs. That's for the 10,000.
Doug, I'm looking at 253,200 and 265,200.
Yes.
What's the difference between them?
265,200 is what we called the line items last year as fire department O&E.
Okay.
The deputy mayor had asked us to put together things under public safety this year. So we created the public safety position as for salary and wages, and we have a public safety division of fire O&E. So it's the same line items. We've added $10,000 to the budget and just changed them. So from now on, it will be listed under public safety fire.
Okay, so like 290 under 253, that's 200. Training.
It was 15,000 last year.
Right.
And it is 15,000 this year.
Okay, now it's 265, 200 training. That's the fire company this year, right?
Yes.
Okay, so we have no columns to the right of that, so they're all falling under this 253?
Yes.
Okay, got it. Okay, I see where you did. Sorry about that. Does the fire company need any vehicles this year? Is there any?
In the capital budget, there is a provision for a fire chief's vehicle for $55,000.
Okay.
And there's also fire equipment, SCBA and PPE of $180,000, which includes some turnout gear, some balance of the SCBA that they need, and a gear dryer.
Okay. I don't have that page for some reason, do I?
Yeah, at the back you'll have, just before, yep, you got it just before revenue, there's capital budget. Should be sideways. No, the back one, no, before one page.
I don't have it. Is it this one, Doug, or? Okay, I do have it, Doug. It's in a different format here.
Different place?
Yep, I got it. It's different.
Okay, it's article
I was looking at yours sideways and mine long, so I missed something. Okay.
Landscape versus water.
Okay. Well, you'll get that when you get to the capital.
I'll go through that one.
Okay, thank you.
Contribution to the first aid squad is $35,000, the same as it was last year. And the fire contribution to the fire company is $90,000. There is a provision in the local finance law we got today that requires that 50% of that be appropriated for the purchase of fire equipment, materials, and supplies. So we'll ask the fire company this year to verify that $45,000 budget goes for equipment and supplies.
Okay, what's that from the DCA?
That's from the DCA. It's pursuant to NJSA 40A:14-34.
Okay.
Came out in their local finance users for municipal budget appropriations for volunteer fire companies and fire districts. So we'll ask them to keep those records and provide us proof of that by the end.
Okay. I guess we can look at the history and make sure we're there already. Right?
I'm sure they can give us some history and we'll see where we are, how much we have to work on.
Okay.
The fire department now falls under public safety, so we'll skip that over to public works, salary and wages. That reflects the 2% availability increase in there. We've kept overtime and part-time the same. Actually, we've increased, excuse me, we have increased overtime from 40 to 47. Part-time, we've left at 30 at this point in time. The public works overall budget went from 263 to 293. The bulk of that increase coming in fees and compensation for contracted snow plowing. We did have an increase in traffic lines because we can't get as competitive pricing as we once got for line striping because Burlington County has not gone out to contract for line striping in this last round. So what we had anticipated as a price the year before was not available to us this year. Whether they do the next time around, I don't know. It depends on whether they need it or not. We've had some changes in between the lines a little bit, up and down. Communications a little less, tires are a little less. Small equipment went up. It was actually the same as what it was. Heavy equipment repairs went up, reflected on what we had spent in this past year. And motor vehicle repairs went down slightly. We anticipate motor vehicle repairs staying down because of the age of our equipment greatly improving over the next few months when we get rid of our old replace it with. Solid waste collection, we anticipate a slight increase in that, about $5,000.
Yeah, we had a multiple-year contract with them, right?
Yes, this is the last year.
This is the last year?
The increase, the next 2 years will stay the same.
Okay.
So I anticipate that number, plateauing at that number and going back down.
So we're in contract till 2020?
Yes.
Okay, good.
But our tipping fees, they go up every year depending on the fees. So it's not only the contract, it's also the tipping fees. Buildings and grounds actually went down $1,000. I don't know where I took it from. But I took some of it from fertilizer and seed. So we were down slightly. Board of Health remains the same. Contribution to agencies remains the same. Recreation increased $1,000, mainly because of the addition and the expansion of the Christmas tree lighting ceremony. An event that's well worth the investment of the township. The length of service, LoSAP, we left the same at 38. Although we only had 21 spent last year, from year to year it's hard to tell what we'll have as qualifying members. Bulk purchases went up slightly. Power remained the same. Street lighting went up slightly. Telephone went up slightly. Heating oil remained the same, and gas and fuel went down because we no longer have the TRS fuel expenses to be included in there. Landfill monitoring stayed the same. Contingent stayed the same. Standard Social Security stayed the same based on what we expected before. Retirement system is based on what we have. So that figures there. The court salary and wages went up the 2%. So we still have the hiring of a new judge, so that may reflect a little bit in there. And court O&E went up based on what they had spent last year. Mainly the expense that adds to that is courtroom security, depending on the length of time and number of sessions. You get outside the cap, there's a number of grants there that are national. We don't, as of yet. The capital improvement fund, which is our down payment money, is at $75,000, same as it was last year. We did add building improvements to $17,500, and we did up public works equipment to $55,000 in anticipation of some equipment purchases depending on what our needs are this coming spring. We have some issues with, we have some options to add to our hook lift. We also have some options, or we'll have some, may have some replacement plows that we have to buy. We're looking at some asphalt servicing equipment that we may want to purchase this year. Bond payments on interest is based on what Terry anticipates. Along with note interest. Green Acres loan payments. I believe this may be the last year for that. Or one more?
It's the last year for the special emergency.
Special emergency, this is the last year for the special emergency for the tax, for the reassessment. And we end up with a total budget as proposed is $4,354,025.25 compared to the adopted 17 of $4,276,621. So it is up slightly. And what we have in the 2018 capital improvement proposal, you have a 3-year proposal which we're required to have. This year we're proposing $1,365,000, down payment money of $68,000, and borrowing of $12,967,50. $1 million for 2018 road program. 85,000 for a utility truck with plow. There's also some other probably will have a generator on it for some type of additional lighting. We also looked at a pickup with a plow and a chief's vehicle, 55,000. And as I said before, the fire company equipment for the balance of the SCBA's that are needed. Also, turnout gear. Start doing them in phases, so not all that. They've also applied for a grant for the turnout gear and the dryer, I believe is what they applied for.
So for the public benefit, tell them what SCBA's are, because this is a big number here.
That is their air tanks and breathing devices they use to go inside of the burning building. Self-contained breathing apparatus is what it stands for. And we bought 16 end of 2017 that should be delivered by early April, I'm told. And we bought 6 before that earlier in the year as part of the equipment to be on 4312. That bond. In 19, we look to do, this is just proposal, a multi-purpose dump truck with a plow and a sander. We have 200,000. The 2019 road program for $1 million. We looked at a backhoe for $150 and a municipal building project for $225, which is just a number out there based on a need that we'll be doing something with the building committee down the road. It's not a number that has to stay, and it doesn't commit us to that at this point in time. And in 20, medium-duty dump truck for 140. The 2019 road program for $1 million. Flatbed truck with a power lift key for 88. And the municipal building project again for 2.5. Like I said, the $5 million that are out there in building projects is a wish list. Depending on what the committee decides and where they want to go, it's just in there as a available.
But what I didn't see is, back when I sat on the land development board with you, there was a presentation made, and the board approved 2 antennas at the emergency services fund.
Those are presently being funded out of the ESB buildings bond that we have remaining.
Okay.
If there's any additional, if that doesn't cover all the costs, we would cover that under our contract.
So help me understand, we got a bond to build the EMF.
We have done that. We didn't spend all the money.
Okay.
We have some money left.
Okay.
About 58,000, I think it is.
Okay.
Roughly. Because that is part of the land project and that over there, I can use that money too.
Where do they stand to build those? And are they needed with today's technology?
That's scheduled to go out to bid this month, and we'll be receiving sometime in the next month, so you'll have a bids to review at your, I believe, April.
Okay, thanks, Steve.
Or, I'm sorry, May.
So that'll be there, and why the antennas may change based on what the county is doing with the radio frequency, the need is still there to provide better communication.
That antenna will interface with whatever the county does?
The antenna that will get there will interface with it.
Okay, good. Thank you.
And that's what I have. Sorry, it's so dry.
Any questions or comments from the committee?
I've got a couple questions. I just want to make sure I understand. Terry, we're looking at roughly a $77,000 increase from 2017. I think it said, and a 1 cent increase in taxes. Is it possible to get a 2016 encumbered expenses breakdown at some point? I know on this we've got the 2016 adopted, 2017 adopted, 2018 proposed, but I was wondering if we can get a 2016 actual expense encumbered at some point.
Yes, I actually have it in there, I just hit that column so to make the stuff.
I figured you
but
probably did. I
can
figured that was the
print
case,
out.
but I just, if I can get that at some point, that'd be great, I appreciate it. That's all I have.
Rick, do you have any comments?
No.
No? Joe, you have any comments on that?
No.
Yeah, we try to do our best to keep taxes at a minimum, but expenses do go up, and I think it is good government not to have big jumps and then years where there's no increases. And unfortunately, in the past, we did have a year where we had to make a major jump. And, for $77,000 and a 1 cent tax rate, it's reasonable. I prefer not to have a tax increase, but expenses do go up, and as you heard, salaries are going up 2%. Mr. Kramer does a very good job. He knows the numbers very well when it comes to public works and the history of this town, and they're pretty confident that the numbers pretty much stay where they are. And I'm sure I'm up for election this year, so I'm sure I'll be tagged for raising taxes in Tabernacle Township, 1 cent if I vote for this budget. But I think it's just good government to have incremental small increases than large increases in years with no increases.
The challenging part is the taxes are going to go up irregardless. The school board starts with a 2% increase every year. We just had a subcommittee meeting, a liaison committee meeting, and they are expecting state aid numbers on Friday, which will tell them what their budget is, but they start with a 2% increase. Now that we have the elections synced in November, what's challenging is that their budget never comes before the public. So they automatically, provide they're no higher than 2%, they automatically start with the 2% number. So you're guaranteed to raise taxes every year from the school district.
Yes.
So that's the challenging part for us, at least the way I look at the budget, is that we've got to take into account what the school is doing, because they're automatically raising taxes every year. And I think it puts us in a position where we have to be a little more careful in terms of how we're incurring expenses and how we're budgeting, because we know we're already 2% in the hole from what's happening across the street.
Had a much larger operating budget.
Right.
So Terry, you gave this example of a $254,000 home, the tax would be $1,140. What's that come up to, a 1 cent increase? What's that?
I think it's roughly, 1 penny is as far as for that particular house.
Yeah, for that, we're getting an analogy of another house, like a $200,000 home. We know that 1 cent equals $77,000 across the board. What's that mean to an average homeowner in Tabernacle Township?
Your 263, 744 is a $26.
$26. Okay.
So your 64,000 should be under 30 from that.
Okay, ballpark. And we can bring that up at our next meeting, Doug.
Okay.
Okay, so that's our discussion, our overview, and we're going to have the first reading and introduce this budget on March 26th. And then we're going to have a hearing and we'll adopt this budget on April 23rd. And also our cat bank ordinance, the first reading will also be March 26th, and it'll be adopted on April 23rd. What I'd like to do before we go to reports, I'd like to open this to the public and hear what your thoughts are on this budget. So we're going to open this to the public. This is just to discuss the budget that you just heard. And then if you have any comments that you'd like to make about this budget, they'd be appreciated. Anyone?
I'll take a shot.
Mrs. Brooks, did you want to?
Yes, please.
Please.
Thank you. I was going to hold these, Fran Brooks, Moore's Meadow Road, I was going to hold these till the next meeting, but we may as well get some of these issues at least off the table. At least page 8 in my agenda has, which you spoke about, Mr. Kramer, the building improvements for 17.5. What are you projecting?
Fran, do you have a number in front of that?
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, I do. It's 901-291.
Okay, that makes it really easy for us.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, that is a good way to do it. And it's for 17.5.
We have a couple of issues in a number of buildings, nothing major.
Such as, just to understand.
Heating systems
Oh, okay.
and Public Works, the main garage heater is getting towards the end of its life. So that's one of the areas. We have some outside painting to do on a couple of buildings.
Okay.
The annex being one of them, paint the wooden trim that we have on that building. We have some interior stuff that we're doing in here. Some of it's funded out of last year's capital, some of it's will be funded out of this.
Interior work here.
Painting here, and that type of stuff.
Oh, painting, okay.
So, nothing,
Nothing structural
no
or...
big project that we're aware of right now. We have some heating issues at the firehouse that we have. They have multiple heaters,
Okay.
far more than any one building needs, but it's just the way it was built over sections in the heaters. And we deal with each one of those as we go, so.
Okay, that's helpful. My other question is, where in the budget is the information on snow plowing? How is it classified in, I know if we go at 300-200, where you have public works, or 300-100, well, that's salary and wages, I'm sorry, Doug. But how does
268, 300,
260,
no, 300, 200.
300,
And
200?
the sub base of 268 is road salt and sand. That's basically all of our supplies for our salt and our liquid calcium.
Okay. Regarding, and the part-time salary and wages for the cost of the person or persons who are going to do the part-time snow plowing, the person you contracted with this year,
Our
the
person
two
we
drivers.
contracted with is under
204, okay?
204, would it be in 300,
Fees and-
104?
No,
No.
300, 200. It's an
Okay.
operating expense. It's not a
Okay.
salary or wage.
Okay.
So it's under 204, which are fees and compensation.
Oh, okay, so the salary we pay the contractor to do the plowing actually falls under fees and compensation?
Yes.
Okay.
We don't pay their men. We pay them a contract fee to do that.
Oh, okay, okay. That clarifies that because it's so hard to figure out what goes where. The other question I have is, and it goes to the bond, that was the bond ordinance that was adopted back in November of 2017, 2017-10. Part of that bond was for the SBA packs. And so I'm wondering, how does that, first of all, is that bond operating? Has that bond, those bond?
No, we haven't bonded that yet.
None of that's been bonded. So how,
No, because the bill hasn't
I couldn't even hear you.
come. Okay. It will
sorry.
be banded first, which is a short-term
Okay.
instrument,
Oh,
not
okay.
a bond. But once the expenses come in, we've ordered the material under state contract.
Okay,
And we bought 6 under the bond for the truck as equipment that belongs to that truck, the 6 packs that belong in that truck. The next 16 are to replace the ones that are going out of service. They have need for another, I think it's 7 at the fire company, and then we have another 5 that are on the rescue truck.
okay.
So at that point in time, that money will be used on that.
Okay, so, I'm not sure where I saw it now, but the packs are under the fire budget, is that correct? You
Now, the packs are under capital.
are under capital, okay, I guess that's where I saw it. And, yes, I see. So those will be covered as once the expenditure is made by this,
Yeah, then we'll be into the money.
the Benford, okay.
That way we're not incurring interest until we need it.
Right, well, that makes sense, I can understand that. There are a few other things. So is there any intention to actually act on that bond, 2017-10 bond? Are we,
2017, 2017.
-10, that bond that was adopted, that bond ordinance that was adopted back in November of 2017.
Yes. We purchased 2 trucks on that, or 2 dump trucks were on that bond.
Oh, the 2 dump trucks are on that bond.
We purchased the SCBA packs.
Packs.
They're not, none of these are delivered yet, but they've all gone out to bid and been purchased.
Okay.
Our use state contract for NJPA cooperative bid.
Okay, so I guess what I'm confused about is the road program. If that bond was to be used, part of that bond was about 900,000, I think, was to be used for the road program. Do you plan to act on that?
That money is been approved to been used for that. And when Dan's report comes in on the road program, then the committee will decide how they want to use the money.
Okay.
We have to give someone else a chance.
Yeah, that's fine,
Okay.
that's fine, but
Thank
thanks.
Anyone else?
We'll
from the
have
public?
another meeting.
Mr. Brooks.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation, Mr. Kramer. Just a quick look. I've only got two questions. One is at the length of service award program, council number 30-417-291. And I certainly don't want to take anything away from the LoSAP. But I wonder how much was actually expended in 2016, because the cushion between...
If I remember correctly, the cushion was much closer. I can't remember exactly, I can find that out.
I mean, I understood you pretty clearly when you said it's hard to tell what the amount that's going to be needed is going to be, because the participation could vary a lot. But just the difference between the amount encumbered in 2017, which is roughly $22,000, and the amount adopted in 2017 and proposed for 2018 is not quite double, but close to its 38,000. It seems big. I guess the question to be answered by committee is it sufficient? Is it approximately right? But the cushion seems very large based on what was expended the year before. The other question or comment that I had is at 300-268 road salt and sand. And it's a similar kind of question. I'm just looking at the difference between what's proposed in 2018 and what was encumbered, expended the year before. And that too, it seems like the difference between what was actually used, which is roughly $75,000, and what's proposed is $95,000. It seems like the cushion is generous. Granted, no one knows what the weather will bring or what the cost of salt might be.
It's 3 storms.
Right, so I guess the question is if we've had, I don't know, to me it seems like looking at what's the history been and what might the future bring.
And when we don't use it, it goes into surplus to help build surplus. So versus having it as an emergency expense if I'm short and having to pay it all back the next year.
Understood, that would be something to be prudently avoided. On the other hand, even in a heavy year, what might the expense be? That's all I'm asking. I mean, you have all the numbers of what was expended in 2016, 2017. I noticed it came down from 100,000 in the prior year, so it would seem that that's more than enough.
But 74 is too low. So, and what we get tonight is another 75 or 80 tons of salt if we get ice. So, this year the price went down, Last year it went up, was at 64 something a ton. This year we're down to 56. Was not expecting that.
So obviously you're comfortable with the number.
I'm comfortable with that.
Otherwise, okay. Fair enough. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brooks. Anyone else from the public? Okay, we're going to close the public portion to the municipal budget, and we're going to move on to a discussion on the and revisit an ordinance that LaShawn had given us a couple years ago. As you know, we have many of these bingo raffle license come in front of this committee, and other townships handle this differently. And just would like the township committee to have a discussion about this, and is this something that we would want to revisit and allow our township clerk to basically issue these licenses for bingo and raffles and other games of chance, rather than bring them to this committee twice a month and have to go through all the paperwork and the logistics. We do get an opportunity, which Sean does email us everything that she receives, whether it's an open request or whatever communication. In this case, I'm sure she would do the same here. Is this something we wanted to visit and change? And what basically we do to eliminate that type of business coming before the board, like today, the church raffle, and other raffles that we see on an annual basis, pretty much. I mean, this is my 6th year here. They seem to repeat themselves every year, and we seem to be just rubber stamping them as they go. Not that we rubber stamp them, we do look at them, we read them, and we approve them. Anyone have any thoughts on
Joe, I think, first of all, anything that gives us more opportunity to do other things here on the committee is helpful to us. But I would be concerned, and I think I know the answer to this, but I'd like LaShawn, if she doesn't mind, to tell us if this would be any undue burden upon her if she's now approving this. And what it would take time-wise if we were no longer to do it. Would that be helpful to LaShawn? Would it make the processing of the events, the paperwork for the events quicker? Would the recipients and the people who are applying then, get their information more timely? So if you don't mind, LaShawn, can you give us a little bit on that?
Absolutely. The process would be a lot quicker for the applicants. A lot of times when an organization would come into the office with their application, their event would be 2 months down the line, where they would have to wait for a governing body meeting to actually pass a resolution. So it would actually take that process out. It allows the organization to move forward a lot faster. My process in reviewing the application is not going to change. Everything is the same. I still do the findings of determination for the organization. The process would still be sent up to the state for their approval, along with the state police. It just moves things a lot faster for the organization.
Thank you.
Yeah. How about your workload, LaShawn? You have to prepare this, get it on our agenda. Does it eliminate that stuff for you, and does that save you woman hours? I won't call them that.
Preparing resolutions, yeah, it definitely will save some time.
Why was the ordinance introduced in 2001 in the first place?
I wasn't here.
The first ordinance was just to create, to allow it in the town, but it did not designate the municipal clerk as the issuing authority for that. So if you wanted to do something like that, you have to pretty much amend your current ordinance and spell it out and have your clerk do it. Because that's what the Legalized Games and Chance Control Commission looks for.
And LaShawn, you had provided me, I don't know if the rest of the committee, there was a model ordinance that you had that came from the municipality, right? And basically, it was very similar to this, except to designate the clerk as the authority to issue that permit for that purpose. And so what I'm asking, is it something that we want to do and allow LaShawn to expedite the process for the applicant and it reduced some of the workload on her. And yet, if we want to know about it, or if we have an issue with it, we can certainly always weigh in and ask her to hold that permit until we discuss it. And for instance, if there is an issue with a certain permit, and it creates a problem in the township for whatever reason, you know, we could instruct the clerk next time that permit comes up, to hold it and have a discussion here about that.
The only, I mean, I have no problem with Sean, expediting this stuff, I mean, just to speed up the process. The only thing I would ask is that we receive a list every month of anything that has been issued.
Okay.
That would be the only thing I would ask. So
Well, go ahead, Joe, I'm sorry.
if we do have a concern with something, we can address it.
You know, one of the things that we did, and I want to say it was might have been 2013 when I was mayor, or maybe it was 2016, but at one point we did a clerk's report every quarter, and we got away from it. But what Sean did, if I remember correctly, that you had come up with a list of different things you'd done during that quarter. And what it did was it gave us an opportunity to be able to see how much workload there really was. And it told us a lot, because it told us how much work that LaShawn does, and also, you know, we're very fortunate to have Natalie to be able to work in that capacity also, so they team up very, very well. But I think that I would agree with you that if we could find a way to be able to streamline the process for the applicants, while at the same time making it easy for LaShawn, I think that we ought to do it. We ought to do it without a doubt.
Plus it's, less on our agenda.
Okay, so would everybody be okay if I ask Joanne to go back and prepare an amended ordinance, and then it will list it on the agenda at our next meeting, and in the future, that's the new process we'll follow?
Brilliant.
Okay, this is the model.
That's like a woman.
Yeah, that also.
We got that copy.
There's new language that probably needs to be put in there rather than just paper. Okay, that's the discussion on that. Also, LaShawn gave us a copy of ordinance 2000-7, which is something that the Colonel brought up today, which is our process for parade permits. And it'll just give us an opportunity to amend this and put the step in here that the Colonel wants. Colonel, do you have a copy of our parade permit ordinance?
No, sir.
I will make sure you get a copy so that you'll see the process that they have to go through. And if I heard you correctly, what you're looking for is you want to be communicated on about that process, right? So that when that permit comes in, you want a copy of it. You want to see what they're going to be doing in town and how they're going to be operating.
I get to review all the parade permits now.
Okay.
And LaShawn goes through that and then makes that part of the process, me and the EMS. So I would assume that with the public safety director and that whole lash-up, that's the same process you do for that. My concern is not necessarily those things that are parades, but those other public events out there that might not necessarily be parade permits. For example, when Seneca has their soccer tournament or whatever they might have, they bring 4, 5, 6, 7,000 people into the town. We don't know it. So it ties up the roads on one hand, and we don't know it. The other is it's a lucrative target to tourism if it was there. And it's one of those things that we should advise Homeland Security that we're going to have an unusual type of event, public event, that's been advertised so that people know what's going on out there, so that we can tell Homeland Security, so we can tell the state police, so we can tell ourselves, to include the emergency services operation, of what's going on.
Okay.
And that's my concern. And I don't know if that's where it should go in there. I don't know if every time someone's going to have some kind of public event, that they have to come to the township for approval or just acknowledge. I'm just not aware of it. But right now, I'm going on word of mouth. Somebody goes down through the system, goes down through the system. Somebody called me up and said, "Did you know that they're going to do?" And then I get involved in the process. Sometimes it involves writing an incident action plan. Sometimes to how the the emergency response people are going to work with that issue. Sometimes it's going to the event and talk to the event about what they are. We've talked before about Holy Eucharist. That's just a tip of the iceberg for all these other things going there. And like I said, TAA had a major event. They just happened to call me up and said that Doug had mentioned that they ought to talk to emergency management. So it's my concern. That's what it's right there.
So it sounds
I
like,
don't know if this is, excuse me, I didn't know if this was where to start that discussion, since we're having the discussion anyway about notification about public events, or,
okay. Well, thanks for bringing it up, because clearly we want to protect not only our residents and businesses, but the visitors that come to this township. And it sounds like we need to have a process in place with TAA, with all the schools, and anyone that potentially, probably the churches, we could do an outreach to all the churches that if they're having an event, to let us know about that event, and maybe have some parameters of what kind of information do we need so that you can evaluate that event and whether you need to be part of that event, or your successor, and or the future public works director. So this probably is not the right document to put that in. This is a parade permit, right? But since we had it, I just wanted to ask the committee to take a look at it. Do you see any need to create any change to this, or is everyone comfortable with this, the way this goes?
I personally, I take an awful lot of Colonel O's comments. Normally when he talks about what could happen if, it gets my wheels spinning quite a bit, and I think this is just this isn't even close to what we need to be thinking about. I think we need to revisit this ordinance at some point. I'm not in a position to do it tonight, but he's touched on a lot of issues in a short address to the group about things we need to look at. And as he said, the Holy Eucharist Festival is just the tip of the iceberg. Second, graduation's another one. It's just something we need to be thinking about.
Okay, so I'd like to ask the committee, you have copies of the ordinance, and before our next meeting, put your comments on here, and we'll have a more spirited conversation about this and try to get this where it needs to be so it encompasses everything.
I can give you one right now, Joe.
Yes, sir.
Underneath the section 7, since we're going to be putting in a public safety director, that should be added
Okay.
to the notice of township officials.
Also OEM. Joe? Okay, so we'll table this for now, and we'll put that under old business for a future date. Okay, reports. Colonel Lowe, do you have a report for us, sir? I know we had 2 incidents. I think one was called Riley and the other was called Quinn. Is that correct?
yes, sir. I managed to avoid Riley. I was in Phoenix. William Lowe, the emergency management coordinator. I was in Phoenix and promptly called Doug and laughed and hung up, because that's what he does when he's in Florida, and we do the same thing. I do have a report on Quinn, which was the one I did manage to,
Thank you.
I wish I was going back to Phoenix with. What you got here is an after-action report, as well as the Emergency Operations Center's log, which I thought would be interesting for you. Basically, we went to emergency operations at 6 o'clock on the 7th. I opened it at 6 o'clock in the morning. I opened the OC, met with the 2 chiefs as well as Public Works, talked about what the plan's going to be. We got a little complacent in the OC and looked at, so I just saw nothing but rain and figured it's going to be a piece of cake. And then we got hit, and I was out in the snow putting up antennas, because we don't have any antennas in the emergency services building, putting up antennas so that we could communicate. And just about the time we got the radio started, we got a tone that went to local dispatch. So the emergency operator center took over local dispatch of emergency services, which means that it hit 911, it went to central. If it wasn't a life threat, they gathered them all up and then called us periodically and did a data dump of wires down, trees down, that kind of stuff. Over the period from 7 to 9 March, OEM had 5 personnel in for about 51 hours. The EOC in operations, the CERT from 7 to 9 had 10 personnel in, 46 hours. They did EOC operations as well as running the charging comfort station in Medford that was set up for the region. Public Works had 2 full-time, 2 part-time, and 2 contractors. About 25 hours straight time, about 12 hours of overtime. That's probably, the numbers are a little flaky right now, but that's close. Tabernacle Fire, between 7 and 8 March, had 18 personnel in, did 19 dispatches, which doesn't sound like much until you realize that's 43 tasks, which means that they would go out on a dispatch. So I'm tracking them from the time they leave the station till the time they return, their vehicles, their personnel, and while they're out of the station, they might get 4 or 5 different trees down, wires down, whatever it might be, for about 127 hours. The rescue squad, 7 to 8 March, 15 personnel, 12 dispatches, 27 tasks. Those 27 tasks, like the fire company's taskings, were all trees down, wires down, inaccessible, that type of stuff. They had 1 ambulance run, and I don't think the fire company had any fires during that period of time. We went on, we went until about 4 o'clock in the morning, stood down, stood back up the next morning, which would have been, I don't even know now, Thursday into Friday, and you can see the report there.
So Colonel Lowe,
We had no injuries, no accidents, no personal houses were destroyed, no public property was destroyed. Almost everything was debris removal, road clearance, trees, wires, that kind of stuff. And we had, at one point, we had 26 Atlantic City teams or crews in the township working to restore power. They were putting out that they would have the power back by the evening sometimes on Friday, and they hoped it back by noon on Friday. Public Works, Atlantic City Electric, incredible. There were people here from Demarva, Cape May, and then I took a crew to lunch from Tennessee. So it's interesting, interesting operation. Yes, sir.
I want to thank you, Colonel Lowe. I did witness everyone in action, the fire company, the rescue squad, EMS, and of course you with the OEM office open. And Doug, how many trees were down on the roads that your Public Works Department had to get off the roads during that storm?
We probably had, that we dealt with probably somewhere 60 to 70 trees. Literally, we went down the road to remove 1 tree and it just multiplied.
Yeah, so if you remember that day, I actually was at Town Hall with a meeting with Mr. Kramer. I left here at 10:30 and it was pouring raining.
And Atlantic City Electric came in with their tree cutters, and this guy came in with a detour sign. It's a truck bigger than the plow trucks. Comes in, puts this thing down, great big sign up, says detour. I said, gee, a little sign. If you read the log that I gave you a copy of, it gives you a perspective, especially if you look at the timeline. It gives you a perspective of how hot things got at the time and how much we were scrambling and how much both the fire company and the rescue squad were responding. Public Works is responding too. The problem is that that's stopping them from plowing too. So that you've got those balances that are going on all the time. So as they started plowing, we started to try to relieve them of that and turn it over to the other 2 guys, and then Public Works would pick up the barriers and all as part of the plowing operation. So you had balances in there. But if you read that log, you'll see how many trees came down, because you'll see right up the trees and wires, trees and wires, trees and wires. Last thing, this is the safety contract that's required between the various agencies of the township and township government and the JIF. But we put together a safety contract. The first part of that has to be signed by the mayor and the administrator. And then I'll go and I'll get all the different agencies to sign it, and we have to submit it to the JIF by the 31st. If you would sign that, I would appreciate it. All it's doing is saying we are part of the safety process.
Colonel, do you want us to communicate what we're doing down in Speedwell?
Say again?
Do you want us to communicate what we're doing down in Speedwell?
I don't understand. I do as well as I can now. I mean,
No, what I'm saying to you is...
I'm not going to move my office to Speedwell.
I'm not asking you to do that. What I'm saying is that, for the most part, anything that gets cleared in Speedwell and down trees, et cetera, we do that down there pretty much on our own. My question to you is, do you want us to communicate that?
Well, absolutely.
Okay.
You should anyway. The fact that I would hope you got the common sense that if it hits a wire, not to cut the tree down.
Yeah,
Not everybody in Tabernacle has that, because we have a problem with common sense, and that's one of them. The other is run through barriers. And so yes, it would be helpful if you told us what was going on, especially if you thought you were going to need assistance.
Okay.
Because the response time out there where you are is such that we need a little bit more lead time.
Right.
This happened to be with us on local dispatch. That makes things a little bit easier, so that we can do the plan, we can respond. But yeah, I mean, we ought to have a formal procedure of some kind in place to make that happen.
I've thought of that and there's been a couple of storms where I'll call Doug and say, here's what we got, or I'll even talk to you. But like, for example, we had 4 trees down in total, on Howard Station and on Friendship. And we just took care of it. And I didn't communicate that to you, but maybe I can. But we ought to have some kind of a formal way we do it.
And we can,
Okay.
But you can't, unfortunately, we aren't responsive enough that we would call you. It would have to be initiated by you.
No, I understand.
We'd just get wrapped around the axle. But no, I think that'd be a good idea.
And I'm not thinking to do it because we're just going to take care of business. We're not really communicating that out, but we can.
One last thing about the emergency services and the towers that we're talking about and the antennas. There are dead spots all over this township. It affects 2 different agencies a great deal. One of them is emergency management and how we can talk to different people. One is public works and how they can talk to people. But even more importantly, it affects the school district, because their ability to talk to their buses. When we put these 2 towers up, what we will do is we will go to the school district, and there is a process that through the internet, they can talk to a computer that we can put on our antenna and on our radio, and they can talk to the school buses through that system. In addition to that, we can talk to the public works trucks. Public works can talk to the township, and the town hall can do it, all with almost no investment for heavy equipment. It's just an internet connection. The connection goes into, and the computer is in the ESP. So it's something to think about as we go down, how we can enhance the entire capability of the emergency response system and bleed off into protecting the students. Because oftentimes I will listen, I monitor to all the communications between the schools and the buses, and oftentimes I'll hear them not being able to communicate with each other, to the point where sometimes I get in and act as a net. Last thing?
That'll start April 1st.
Yeah, but you hold it, because I won't be at the next meeting. As soon as you appoint somebody,
No, you hold
you
on
can
to
give him
that.
that.
No, here, take
No, thank you,
this.
sir.
Give this to us on April 1st.
I won't be here.
Well, give it to us the day before.
I'll be gone until
That is yours.
June.
until you leave town.
Okay, so thank you.
There's a right time, Colonel. Tonight was not it. Thank you. I appreciate it. Okay. Mr. Gussie.
Just the update that we talked about with the ESP towers, they're going out to bid, so you'll have something for May. That's all we have.
Okay. Mr. Taylor?
First of all, I'd like to take time to thank Colonel Lowe for his support during the storm. It takes quite a load off of Public Works. to have the questions and the problem areas sent to him and then sent out to us rather than tying up our office to do that. So again, thank you, Colonel Lowe, for that. I also have a reminder for all committee that on March 28th, Wednesday night, the elected official seminar is at O'Connor's in East Hampton, and registration starts at 5:30, and then we'll be for dinner and the seminar for the elected officials.
What time is that,
Registration starts at 5:30. Dinner, I think, is at 6. And it'll be from 6 to 8. And we do get $250 credit for each one of you that will be there for our now loss control funding from the Dell. So I will be there also. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Joanne?
I'm going to ask that you pass on the solicitor report and
That's
have
fine.
Peter give that at the next meeting.
Okay. So Peter, we hope there's another as well.
Tell them that.
Committeeman Yates?
Nothing to report.
Committeeman Franson?
Just congratulations to Colonel Lowe. As Joe has already said, you've really done a terrific job in our township, and I think everybody knows your voice and knows what you do, and I think we all really appreciate that, and I'm sure we'll have an opportunity to more formally express that in the future.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor?
We had a Township Committee School Board Liaison meeting this evening at 6 o'clock, from 6 till 7:15 or so. We talked about a few things. Obviously, there's still quite a bit of work to do on Sequoia. They're looking at potentially having that completed sometime in June, which means that the students that attend Sequoia will not be back until September. They've got a lot of work to do, but they are moving forward with that. We also talked about the potential of looking at services in terms of needs, for example, public works and a bus garage. We talked about some opportunities we could potentially have with working with the school district to provide services that would benefit the entire town. We talked about the sewage treatment plant a little bit, and we had some good dialogue. Our next meeting is going to be sometime in mid-June. That's all I've got. Thank you.
You want to talk about Verizon?
No,
Okay.
I don't. I don't want to jinx it.
Next time, okay.
Next time. We have something to
Okay,
report.
and I have nothing further to report. Before I open the public comment, we do have a guest with us tonight, and he did get to hear our whole meeting, most of our meeting, and hopefully that was productive for him. I don't know how many, I don't think he's ever sat through a Tabernacle Township Committee meeting, but he is our newest freeholder, Freeholder Singh. Freeholder Singh is from Burlington Township, and he is the liaison to the health and county court systems. Freeholder, would you like to say hello? Normally, you have to address the committee, but in this case, I would suggest that you come up and address the public as a whole, if you would, please.
Sure. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Balveer Singh from Burlington Township. I'm raising my 3 kids here along with my wife, and public school teacher, 11 years, and also teach part-time at a county college, RCBC, formerly BCC. And I served as a school board member for 3 years and served as finance committee chair. And the budgeting process was something that I took great interest in. And we had a $70 million budget, so all these things that you have heard, the salaries going up, the benefits, and roofs leaking, heats, gymnasiums, flooring going bad. I mean, this is something you have to deal with. So this is quite interesting. It kind of gives me a little bit more understanding how, yeah, we do have different towns, but a lot of the problems and issues we kind of go through are pretty much the same. Keeping communities safe, clean, workable, keeping affordable. So anyway, so I'm just trying to do a tour around the county, go to all the towns. I represent 40 municipalities, and I just want to make sure that I'm able to. I just got elected, but I don't want to, only time start visiting again when it's campaign time. I want to make sure I'm able to go to towns. It's my first time sitting through a Tabernacle committee meeting, and so I want to come by and introduce myself. So anything,
Would you like to take some questions?
yeah,
Anyone?
please. So I serve as a liaison for the health department and medical examiners. We oversee those services and the courts. I do not oversee the judges. We pretty much provide the building and security for the judges.
Okay.
So in that capacity, I do have a little bit of role now.
Does anyone have a question for Freeholder Singh?
No, but I would like to say thank you for coming, because I think you're actually the first freeholder who has ever, at least in my time in Tabernacle Township, has visited a meeting, has attended a meeting. So thank you.
Well, I learned a lot. So Mrs. Brooks. Very good. I have heard that a lot. Almost every other town that I've been to, I have heard that. But it's just something that's part of my personality. When I was a school board member, I'm a teacher, I like to go out in the community. I like to, before it's superintendent, sometimes no concerns. I know as a school board member, because those kids come home and tell their parents, and those parents will knock on my door and tell me before they email the superintendent. And I'm sure that's the type of persona I had, personality, and I carry the same into this office, where people just come tell me, and then I call the engineering department and say, why is that road still not fixed? When is that bridge going to be built? They want to know. And then all of a sudden, the department that takes 6 months to get back to you says the response back within hours. So I like to be helpful wherever I can be.
Okay, how about the board? Does anybody from the board or staff or professionals have a question for or comment for Freeholder Singh?
I know we have a new hotline for potholes. So, and we do have a lot of agreements with the county, with the towns in terms of repairing the roads where you can get to it before us. And Colin Lowe, thank you for all the work that you did. I know our county was really, really busy. I'm in Burlington Township, and we were also really, really busy every day. So I'm glad you guys didn't have any injuries, no accidents, no trees falling on houses. Considering you're in the middle of all the woods here, so that's very, very good. We're very fortunate, thank God for that.
Okay. Well, Freeholder Singh, thank you for visiting us, and good luck with overseeing the health and the court system. Of course, hopefully none of our residents have to deal with that court system over there.
Yeah, we hope so. I hope I don't have to deal with it. But I go there sometimes for interpreting assignments, but I haven't, only course I've been to is for traffic summons. And God knows I had few during my time.
Okay, you be safe. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to open up to public comment. Anyone? Mrs. Brooks.
Yes, back. Brandon's Morris Meadow Road.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Look like you-
Yeah, that's okay.
Do you need to
There's
tell
three
us
of us over
something?
here, we can
Okay.
listen.
Okay, okay.
Go ahead.
I want to raise the issue about the bond that I spoke with earlier, the 2017-10, the road improvement bond. One of my questions, first of all, I had been reviewing, I reviewed one of my meeting recordings, and just for information's sake, there are 4 Chemung residents who live on Carranza Road. They're Chemung residents, they're not Tabernacle residents, they're listed in the tax records. So I thought it would be important for the committee to understand that there are Chemung residents who are affected by Carranza Road. And I guess the connection I'd like to make is that if Chemung is not going to contribute to the improvement of that road, that when that $265,000 or $255, something like that, is spent, that it comes from the southern side, not the northern side, because it would be very unfair to Tabernacle residents to have the road paved from the northern side, which would facilitate, which would help all these 4 residents. And I don't want to sound selfish or anything, but at least Tabernacle residents should enjoy the benefit of the road improvement from Moores Meadow Road and as far as Mr. Guzzi, which is not clear how far that 245, 265 will take us. So I just wanted to point that out to you. But something else that I don't, I'd like a response to, and that is, do we have a shared service agreement with Chemung Township on the plowing of Carranza Road? Because we've been plowing that road for years, and I'd like to know if Chemung Township has made a single penny of contribution to the costs of us plowing all of the road that they share. And I'm not sure whether you go all the way to the state, but has Chemung Township contributed to our costs for plowing that road?
No, they do the majority of mowing and plowing on Tuckerton Road as an offset. They do most of the mowing on all the way across on Tuckerton Road. They also take care of the portion on the other side of 206, west of 206, that a portion of that is ours. And they've always maintained that portion. So it's sort of a give and take.
Okay.
So from that standpoint, they take the majority lead on Tuckerton Road. It's not that we don't also plow Tuckerton Road. We have Gate Road
That's what I was
off
going
of
to
it.
ask you, yeah.
But the majority of the time, they're the first plow down the road, just the way that we've set up the sections.
Okay.
They do that, and they probably mow three times to R1 during the season for the mowing down there. Because until last year, we only had one tractor that mowed, and they had two, so they took care of that portion of the road.
Okay.
From that standpoint. So,
I don't know whether that relationship should be memorialized, should become more official, I don't know. But I asked the question because clearly they're I don't know if this Committeeman Lee, our Deputy Mayor, actually contacted Chemung to talk to them further about their participation in the paving of Carranza Road. But it would be good if, I don't know, I should ask it as a question, have you contacted them, Deputy Mayor, and talked to them about further participation in the paving?
Yes, but I can't comment at this point.
Okay.
Conversations are ongoing.
Okay. Will there be a time soon when you will be able to comment on that?
Yeah, let's get off my plate.
Okay,
So, yeah.
okay. Well, that's fair enough. These things are sort of complicated. Okay, one other issue that regarding Carranza Road and paving has to do, and I understand that these relationships can be complex, but it seemed to me that the committee adopted a resolution back in November regarding that bond ordinance, 2017-10, that you would earmark monies to pave Carranza Road, combined with, and I remember Mr. Guzzi talking about this, and we listened to the discussion, assuming we got the grant, which we did, which was great, and I appreciate the work that he put in, Mr. Guzzi put in, but there was a resolution that the committee adopted to earmark monies from that bond, and I'd like to know where that stands, because that could be sufficient monies to complete the entire paving of the 1 mile or so that is to be paid, needs to be paid.
My response would be when the deputy mayor is finished and has his plate clear, we could probably give you a better answer to that.
Okay, then, Mr. Guzzi, just one short thing. When will a bid go out for that, the portion of the road that will be covered by that 265 from the state?
As soon as the committee decides on the road program, and whether or not it's going to be limited to the grant amount, or whether they're going to do more of Carranza Road, or whether they're going to do Carranza Road and other roads.
Okay,
So as soon as the committee makes a final decision on the scope, then we'll be able to set a schedule.
Okay, that makes sense, and that will be after the budget is adopted?
That will be after we finish our conversation with Chemung to see what participation level they're going to participate in Carranza Road.
Okay, so probably it would behoove everybody to go back and look at that resolution.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Brooks.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Anyone else from the public? Mr. Brooks.
Thank you, Stuart Brooks, More Than a Road. I'll be quick. I just want to follow up on the discussion of how services are split with Chemung on snow removal. Does anyone, I presume Chemung or Tabernacle, plow from Moores Meadow south on Coranza to the state facility?
No.
We do to the state facility, no further.
And is there an agreement of some kind that, by which the state pays us back or gives us services as something like you described with Chemung?
No, not anymore. At one time, they gave us laborers.
I think I remember that.
They used to take care of the cemetery.
Yeah.
They did work around town hall.
Yeah.
I don't send invoices to the township for doing Friendship Stillwell Road, Harris Station Road, or Eagle Road either.
Okay. Well, I just wonder if, because we do provide them with a service, and it's a service that they need, that might be an inducement for them to participate further in maintenance of the infrastructure. Thank you.
Anyone else from the public?
No, we cannot. Mr. Revere does.
Okay, we're going to close the public portion of the meeting. At this time, we're going to go to executive session where the governing body wishes to discuss the following executive session matters. NJSA 10:4-12B, 7, and 8, closed session for which the public shall be excluded. We're going to discuss a shared service with the community, the appointment for a new public court. Resolved, the public shall be excluded and closed to the public. So at this point, we're going to close the public portion. We're going to ask everyone to exit the building, and when we're finished exiting, we will go into executive session. When we're done, we will unlock the front door and may or may not take any action at that point after the court is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
See you later.